Hello, Massey family. It is Cassandra again, and we are doing another installation of our Massey interview series where we are talking with some of our older family members to get an idea of how they lived and grew up and to basically save some of our history. And today I have the pleasure of speaking with Jesse Ash from California. How are you doing, Jesse?
Fine. How are you doing, Cassandra?
Doing really good. I'm glad to have you on today. Now, Jesse is the descendant of Burl Massey, and you know we all are descendants of Peter and Julia Massey, and he is in the Burl Massey branch of the family. Go ahead, Jesse, and tell us about yourself and about where you grew up.
Okay, my name is Jesse Ash, as Cassandra said, and I was born in Tallahassee, Florida, to the son of Einer Massey Clay Ash from Gordon, Georgia. We lived in a middle-class neighborhood called Smoky Hollow, a few blocks from the capital, with over 90% black. Smoky Hollow was a community that everyone cared about each other. And our community in Smoky Hollow was beautiful growing up there. I'll give you a perfect example. When my mother and father would leave town, they would leave the keys to the house, to the car, to our neighbors, so that if anything happened, they have access to the house or the car. And we was close, the neighbors, the families, and all of the blacks, which we actually lived close as a family.
Okay. Now tell us about your mother and father. What were their names?
Okay, my mother was named, as I stated earlier, her name was Einer Massey Clay Ash, where she married a fellow by the name of John Clay from Macon, Georgia. And they had 7 kids. And the oldest was my uncle, which was Elmer Clay. And my second oldest was Rosalie Massey Johnson. And they had 6 boys and 2 girls. And my father was Charlie Mills Ash from Tallahassee.
Okay. Mills Ash. And what was the name of your brothers and sisters?
Okay, my mother and father had 7 kids, and it was 6 boys and 1 girl. My oldest brother was Charlie Ash. My second brother was Bernice Nathaniel Ash, and my sister was Bertha Lee Ash Bruce, and I was the middle kid, which is Jesse Ash, living in San Dimas, California now. And my next brother was Elmer Ash, which lived in Atlanta, Georgia. And I had another brother that passed away, was John Ash, which at the time, that was when I met your father, James, at his service in Atlanta, Georgia. And my baby brother, which played football for Florida A&M University and ended up signing with the Dallas Cowboys and blew his knee out before he actually played, was my youngest brother, was Tony Ash, and he was the baby boy.
Okay. That's wonderful. What was your home life like? You said that you grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. What were some of the fun family activities that you did?
Well, actually, it's just like mostly during those times, because as you know, I'll be turning 82 years old in December the 7th. And during those times, we was a close-knitted community. I went to a private school myself, which was Florida A&M University High School, and I played football, baseball, and golf. And so during my senior year, what made me leave Tallahassee was during my senior year, it's a group of us, about 7 boys, got together, and we said, hey, what are we going to do in Tallahassee? It's nothing for us to do after we graduate but go to college to be either a teacher or a preacher. And so we said neither one was bad, but we decided that we wanted to try some other things. So we went and joined the Navy when they had a system called the buddy system. And the funny thing that happened was that all 7 of us went down to the post office at that time and signed up, and we went down and we all passed the test in Tallahassee. Then we went. They shipped us to Jacksonville, and we got down and we had to take another test. So when the recruiter came out, he started calling names. He called all 6 of them names for them to get back on the bus to go back to Tallahassee. And I was the only one left to go into the Navy. And so until today, I think I got tricked. But it was a good trick, because that's what made me leave Tallahassee and join the Navy, which I stayed in for 6 years, enjoyed every moment, every day of it, and that's what brought me to California.
Okay. Wow, that's really interesting. What was some of your favorite music or songs back in the day?
Well, actually, some of my favorite music was, favorite one was Respect.
With Aretha?
By the soul sister of the world, Aretha Franklin. That was my best one, was Respect. And one reason for that was because, as a black person, that's what I left Tallahassee for, to get respect and join the United States Navy.
Wow. Let me ask you, which one of your siblings was the funniest one?
Well, I guess if you ask them, they would say me. Because I was the one that always kept things going and kept family together. And my oldest brother was more like a father to us, Charlie. He was more like a father, so we gave him the name of the Godfather because he kept everything together. He started the family reunion with us in Tallahassee. And it went on until he passed away. And then when he passed away, then we almost got back to normal. We haven't had a family. Well, we had a couple since he left, but it haven't been the same.
Do you remember much about your grandparents?
That is something I'm glad you asked that question, because I never knew much about the Massey part of my family or the Clay part of my family, because they was from, my grandfather John was from Macon, Georgia, and my grandmother, as you know, Willer, was from Gordon, Georgia. And when they both passed away, my uncle, which was Elmer, moved all of his 7 sisters and brothers to Florida. And when he moved them to Florida, we didn't hardly have that much contact with the Massey or the Clays. And so he would go back up there quite often. And I think your father, and Uncle Elmer was like brothers, and he would go back up to Macon, and your grandfather would come down to Tallahassee. And Uncle Elmer, that's the only thing we really knew until I met your father in 2008 when my brother passed away. And I met your father, and I always wanted to, get to know the Massey part of my family. So I met your father at my brother's service, and then we got involved in 2008, we got more involved with your father because he was trying to do a family tree during that time, and so we talked pretty often. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. And it's kind of the same thing he was saying, is that he didn't really meet his grandparents that often. And it's quite interesting kind of how the tree breaks off, which is why we're doing these series now, so we can really build that history and people can kind of know where they came from. All right. What's the most important lesson that your parents taught you?
Well, the most important lesson what my parents taught us, was to be a family, a close, loving, knit family, respect each other, work hard, and get the best education that we can get, and which we all did, and I was proud of that. All 7 of us graduated from high school and college, and and we were successful in what we was doing because of my parents, and especially my mother, because she was a go-getter, and now I find out why, because she was a Massey. You know, and we was really close as a family. And I remember when I was about 10, 11 years old, and my Aunt Lucille Taylor, Massey Taylor, she moved to Philadelphia. And my mother and I and my sister and my baby brother Elmo, we got on a train and went up to Philadelphia to visit my Aunt Lucille. And that's when I met some of the Masses up in Philadelphia during that time. And and that was the first when I got to know them, because Aunt Lucille moved up to Philadelphia because some of the Masses was up there. And my baby uncle, the baby of that group, he moved up there and lived with Uncle John. I think it was Uncle John Massey, I think it was. And he ended up staying up in Philadelphia, New York. And so, and I, to the day, and I was only 11 years old, I still remember my auntie address, because they told us, say, here's the address, you always learn it, so you know if you get lost, you know. It was 3308 South 15th Street in Philadelphia.
Oh, wow, okay.
That was quite a few years ago. Yep.
Oh, wow. Well, you can still remember it, though. I can barely remember where I was last week.
Well, you know, they pounding in our head. They pounding in our head because during that time in Philadelphia, you know, you can move around, and the old cop used to come down the street and play with us. So they wanted to make sure we got lost, we can tell somebody where we was from, you know.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. That's really good advice. That's beautiful. And it does line right up with the things that the Massey family kind of stands for. That hard work and respecting each other and getting a good education. All right. Where did you meet? What is your spouse's name, and where did you meet her?
Well, actually, my wife is named Yolanda Casas Ash, which she's a Hispanic race, and I was working at the Federal Reserve Bank when I got out of the military. And I was in management, and she was a messenger, and we met at the Federal Reserve Bank of Los Angeles branch, and we got married, and now I got to make sure I get this right. We got married in 1967. Okay. We got married in 1967, and we got married in 1967. And we had a lovely son in 1968, and we have a daughter was born in 1970, which have a doctorate degree from University of Southern California out here at Los Angeles.
I think we celebrated that when she Dion when she graduated. We were really proud of that achievement. It's really wonderful.
I was proud of that. She is my heart, and she received 3 master's degrees and 1 doctor's degree from USC.
Wow. That's amazing.
yeah, I'm happy for her, you know.
Wow. All right. Did you have any special memory you want to share about getting married or about your spouse?
Yeah, I have a real good one. I never forget. And it was in Martin Luther King got killed. I was going to take my wife, my cousin, which is a Massey, was Thomas Johnson, and he was a Thomas Johnson. He was the son of Aunt Rosalie, and we both was in California out here, and so we said, hey man, let's go back to Tallahassee and introduce our future wives, to our family. And so his wife was from Mississippi, I think it was, Arkansas. Okay. And so we got in the car and we headed out on what they call Interstate 10. And at the time, my wife was Hispanic, which looked kind of white, you know. And so after we crossed Arizona, we started thinking then, we said, wait a minute, man. All this stuff is going on in the South now. And we never forget when we got into Louisiana, into Biloxi, Mississippi, which they didn't have the interstate then. You had to go through the city. And we made my wife lay down in the back of the car. When we went through Mississippi, we had her to lay in the back of the car, through Alabama, and we wouldn't let her up until we got into Pensacola. And so we never forget when we pull into the gas station. My wife would go to the restroom and they wouldn't say anything, but Thomas, myself, and Joyce had to use the restroom for colored only. And that was the funniest thing ever happened. And we got into Tallahassee. And my Aunt Dorothy, you have to know her. I mean, I wish you guys could have met her. She was the Massey. She was the fourth kid of my grandmother, Willer. And Aunt Dorothy came over to me. And so when all this stuff was going on in Tallahassee, Aunt Dorothy came over to me and she said, Jesse, she said, ooh, I'm so glad to see you and your future wife. She said, but Jesse, please don't bring her back down here no more. Because Aunt Dorothy was afraid, that she thought I had a white woman as a wife. But I said, hey, Dorothy, she's not white. She's just like us. She Hispanic. And he Dorothy said, yeah, I love her, but please don't bring her back down here no more. And I cracked up, and that was the funniest thing ever happened to me and me. And I said, oh my God! But Aunt Dorothy was she was the glow of the family. She was the glow of the family. Yeah, she was the glow of the family.
Wow.
And she was. And Aunt Dorothy, she was just telling the truth, boy. She said, hey, please, because, they was the bus, we was picking the buses and everything else. So she wanted to make sure that we be safe when we was going back.
Right. I know that couldn't have been fun for Yolanda at all.
Hey, but we didn't have no problem. When you pull into the gas station stuff, they look real hard and all that stuff, But I was wise and just got out the military, so when we drove, I had my gun sitting on sitting right there beside me. So when they looking there, they saw the gun first.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was funny in a way, though. During that time, and I was back in the 60s.
Well, let me ask you, who was your biggest influence back in those days?
Well, my biggest influence was mostly during those days was my family, and especially on the Clay side, which was my grandfather, because they was close, and we spent every weekend together with all the family members met, down in Wakulla. That's where most of them was at, in Wakulla, and we lived in Tallahassee, but most of the family was, Elmer brought them into Wakulla, so we would always go down, and we spent every weekend together as a family.
Wow.
And so my most influence was from my mother and father and all of my family during that time.
Wow, that's awesome. Wouldn't it be nice if we could go back to doing things like that with family? That's the one thing I miss, because we was a close-knit family. And that's what I miss more
especially being out here so far away in California.
Right.
And most of my family, most of my brothers has passed away, all but one now, and that's Elma, which is in Atlanta. And my brother Bernie's just passed away about a couple of months ago in Tallahassee.
Right. I'm so sorry to hear that.
He was the oldest one living.
Mm-hmm.
Now I happen to be the oldest one living.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Let me ask you, let's see. What was your very first job?
My first job was when I was in high school. We used to, on the other part of my family, which is my daddy part of my family, we all played golf, and we worked at the golf course. And so I had a job working caddying at the golf course and also working inside what they call a pro shop.
Okay.
And so that was my first job I ever had before I went into the Navy, was working at the pro shop at Tallahassee Country Club in Tallahassee, Florida.
Okay, wow.
And I was only making, it was really weird. We used to make, I think 25 or 50 cents a day for 8 hours. Cent.
Oh, my God.
Max was 50 cents a day. But during that time, it was a loss of money then,
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah, but that's what's amazing. 25 cents or 50 cents a day.
For 8 hours of work.
Yeah. And then when I joined the Navy in 1956, I moved up to about 100, and I think my pay at that time when I went to boot camp was $165 a month.
Mhm.
Yeah. With free room and board and free food. And I used to send $50 of that back to my mother and father.
Mhm. You can't beat that when you're single, right? Free room.
Yeah, that's board. Right. Yeah. Room and board.
Well, I know now you're a very successful businessman out there in California. Could you tell us a little bit about what you do in your business?
Well, yes, I will. I worked for the Federal Reserve Bank for about 28 years, and when I retired, I was in charge of all the cash operation for the Los Angeles branch of the Federal Reserve Bank. So I went into business with a football player by the name of, during that time, L.A. Rams football player by the name of David Hill.
Okay.
He was a tight end for the L.A. Rams and Eric Dickerson. And him and I opened up a business, armored trucking business, which I know quite a bit about, so he went in with me. And we became the first black-owned armored trucking business in the United States of America.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that was just like Brinks, Brinks armored truck,
right.
armored truck, Loomis armored truck, and we was the only one. And so about 4 years after we was in business, I bought David out. And we incorporated in 1988, and we opened the doors in 1990. And I bought David out in 1994, and we still own the company. We run the company. We are we still one of the only black-owned armored trucking companies in the United States. And and my son is mostly running it now because I'm getting up in age, and so he took all the pressure off of me, and so he runs it now. My son Anthony runs it now.
Wow, that is wonderful. Yep. Again, like I say, all of the traits that we've been interviewing our family, they just seem to transfer no matter where you grew up or how you came up. All of those same traits of working hard and really striving to be entrepreneurs and things like that just continue to transfer in our family.
And that is a true statement. And that is one thing that I am so proud of our family, is because we was taught at a young age to treat everyone the way you wanted to be treated.
Right.
Get a good education, respect people, and work hard. And I can remember when my father was working for the city of Tallahassee, and I was a young kid, and all of us was young. I never remember my father to take a day off as a sick day. And he would work 5 days a week, every morning, get up at 5 o'clock, go to work, come home, rest, get up the next morning and go to work. And so that's where I learned all my hard work from. And I can say all of us did. I had my oldest brother, Charlie, was a lieutenant on the sheriff department in Tallahassee. My youngest brother, Tony, was a captain in the police department, and he ran for chief of police in Tallahassee, and he also ran for commissioner in Tallahassee. But he died at a young age. He got paralyzed from the waist down, and he died at a young age. But he was very successful in Tallahassee. My brother Elmer, the one in Atlanta, he spent 20 years in the Army, came out as an officer, and he owned a daycare center, and he have 2 sons as doctors. Both of them is in Atlanta. They are medical doctors in Atlanta.
That's Xavier.
Repeat?
I think Xavier is one of them.
Yeah, well, no. Xavier is one, and Tolan is the other one.
Tolan, that's right.
Tolan. And Tolan is still singer, just like my daughter. And they like sisters and brothers. We call them husband and wife because every place one go, the other one go. And and Tolan is still singer, and Tolan is a dog lover.
Okay.
And so he lived downtown Atlanta and went that class down there where they got all those big homes that he lived there in Atlanta. And Elma lived in Lithonia, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. And he's very successful. His wife was a teacher, a school teacher, so that's why they opened up the daycare center. Well, they don't call it a daycare center; they call it a educational center.
Okay. Wow. All right, we're winding down to our final questions. If you could teach any members of our family a new skill, what skill would you want to teach them?
Well, one of the skills I would love to teach them is getting the best education they can, and I would like to teach them a sport that I loved and played in the Navy is golf, because I ended up being a pretty good golfer, and I played all Navy golf, and I taught my granddaughter and my daughter and all of them how to play golf, and I would love to teach them golf and respect and to work hard and get the highest education they can get. Don't depend upon anything from anyone.
Right. Absolutely. That's wonderful. So what is your secret to a long life? You know, it's such a blessing that we have so many family members that have reached 80 and above, and we have some now that are in the 90s. I think our oldest is 95 right now.
Who is that?
What is your secret? One of the, I want to say her name is Ethel Wicks. And I want to say she's also in the Burrow Massey family, but we do have a couple that are in their 90s now.
Yeah, I know. I just congratulated one on their birthday. It's coming up here in a couple of days. That is 88. On your website.
Was that
his
Burrow
birthday
Massey?
Came up. Who was it?
Junior? I want to say it was Burrow Jr., but I'm not sure.
It was one of them, but he was 88 years old, and he was having a birthday, I think either today or tomorrow. And I put a congratulation in there to him. You know, and I said, wow, he's 88. He's a couple of years older than me.
Yeah, that's Burrow Massey. It sure is. He was the first interview I did, and he's great. I love talking to him.
Yeah, he was really beautiful. I think he the one called me, too. Because I think he's the one he's in New York, isn't he?
I think he's in Philly. I think he's still
in Philly, because he was the one teasing me. He called me one day, I think, and he was teasing me about, he remembered when we came to Philadelphia, and he met me then, and he came over to Aunt Lucille's house, and he was teasing me because we was country.
That's probably about right. That sounds right.
Yeah, and I cracked up because, see, he know my Aunt Lucille's son, which is Robert Taylor Jr.
Okay.
And he was saying, hey, give me Robert Taylor phone number, because he said we grew up together, and that's about right too. And so he was telling me about, he remember when we came up there, and he was teasing me how country we was.
That sounds about right.
Well, that sounds like those Philadelphia and New York fellas,
Oh yeah.
Everybody's country to them.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Bernard Massey is also 94, so we got a gentleman that's 94 as well. So we got quite a few that's up there in age. So what is your secret though?
Actually, I think my secret was getting out of Tallahassee, Florida, and getting good medical care from doctors, doctors that cared about you, and
right.
And I think that I don't care what who say, is that you have to make sure that you know as much about your doctor as they know about you, because I really do believe that doctors have a lot to do with the ones you're going to, how much they care about you. And I know I have a black doctor here that he's just like my son, and him and I are really close, and he cares for me, and he making sure that I get the proper care. And I still play golf at 82, and I still take exercise, and I don't drink or smoke, never smoked. But I don't know whether it have anything to do with your living, but there's some things that I didn't like and I don't like, I don't do.
Right.
But I take care of myself, and your father and I like talking to your father because he's a real religious person. And I can't say I'm that really. I believe in my God Almighty, but I don't. I can't say that I'm a person that go to service every week, But I do pray and show the love for my father and other people, Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I'm a big advocate for family health, so sometimes I put little things out there for the family to, recognize that, we need to take care of our heart health and our, so many family members can have diabetes and different things like that. And I'm a big self-advocate for you making sure that you're taking care of yourself and asking the right types of questions. So that's all really great advice, and I'm so happy to hear you still playing golf.
Yeah, and going in for checkups.
Right, regularly.
I regularly go in. As a matter of fact, I go see my doctor every 3 months. And making sure they take all the tests they have to take. Matter of fact, I'm going in for a procedure on the 9th of December because I'm having a little pain in my heart, and I wanted them to go in there and find out whether all my arteries are good,
Right.
And so I'm having that on December the 9th. And I really do. And I talk to Zave and Tolan quite a bit, and get advice from them because they are young doctors. They both graduated from Meharry University Medical School in Tennessee. And they're pretty good, and I don't mind calling them. I'm one of those type of person I call family members in a minute. If something wrong, I'm gonna call him. I'm gonna question my own doctor. If I don't believe in my own doctor, I'm gonna call Tolan and say, hey, Tolan, is this right? Is that right?
Right. Nothing wrong with that.
And I love my family. I know when I was talking to your father, and he was getting ready to do this family union, him and I talked, and we went over it quite a bit. And I'm so glad that he got it going, and I'm really appreciate everything that you are doing. My daughter and I was talking about you the other day, and you working hard, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. Well, did you have any other words for the family?
No, the only thing I really now, since I'm so hooked up with our Massey family, I'm trying to find some information out, and your father was looking for it for my Clay part of my family,
Okay.
Which Uncle John Clay, and I know you was telling me that you guys found some streets or cemeteries with some plaques in there about the Clay. And so that's what I was trying to find, both part of it, because, as you know, my grandfather was John Clay, and my grandmother was Willa Massey Clay. And so now I'm finding something out about.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm finding quite a bit out about the Masseys now, and it's so funny is that I said, now I'm finding something about the Massey. I coached my son in Little League baseball, and I had a super little ball player that played for us, and his last name was Massey.
Oh, wow.
And his last name, and I didn't know this until after, but he was a little white boy, Super.
Okay.
His family and I were close. And I said, boy, I would have teased him to death if I knew that I was a Massey when I was coaching him. He spelled it the same way, too, and his father was a super individual. He spelled it the same way, Massey. And that boy, he was a super ball player, too. He went on and played semi-pro ball.
Okay. Wow. Well, it's been so nice talking to you, and I'll make sure that the family gets to know your family better now, and I'm glad that we are connected, and hopefully I'll get a chance to talk with you again real soon.
Okay, it was nice talking with you, Cassandra, and I respect for what you're doing, and I tell your father, I said, hello.
I sure will.
And I mail out that deal that you and I was talking about. You should be getting it in a few days.
Very good. I'll be looking for it. So hold on just a second on the line.
Okay.